Hi, my name's Lori Uemura, and I teach middle school science here at Saigon South International School, and I currently teach 7th and 8th grade integrated science classrooms.
What led you to initiate a flipped classroom?
In the spring semester of 2013, I started my master's program, and the focus is on educational technology. So in one of our readings that we did for class, I started reading about the flipped classroom and flipped learning. They now like to call it flipped learning rather than flipped classroom. And it seemed like it made a lot of sense, pedagogical sense, made a ton of sense to me. And mainly because it addressed my biggest complaint with my role as a teacher, and that is I don't ever have enough time to really sit down and focus on the individual student and differentiate in the way that I would like to. So with flipped learning, it has allowed me to have so much more class time to differentiate and modify what I'm doing with each student. So it's more individualized.
How long have you been utilizing the flipped learning?
I learned about it in the spring semester of 2013, and then when I came back for the fall semester here at school, so in August of 2014, August of 2013, so about a year and a half now.
Have you had any mentors to help you with this, and how did you learn how to flip the classroom?
I read a lot. I read Bergman and Sam's book. They're basically considered the gurus of flipped learning. And they started in their chemistry classrooms in a high school in the United States and had tremendous results with it. And so they wrote a book about it. And that was the first thing that I really read in depth. And then there are a lot of videos out there. They have YouTube channels. You can follow them on Twitter. And so through that, I started finding other really experts at it. David Prindle is a guy I follow on Twitter. I like him a lot. And depending on what level you teach, there are flipped experts at every division level. So Todd Nesloney or Nelsroney, this guy in Texas, is an elementary teacher, and he does some pretty amazing things with flipped as well.
What challenges have you encountered in flipped learning?
Wow. In the beginning, it was the technology. I feel pretty tech savvy, but it was a really steep learning curve for me, and I tested a lot of different technologies to use for the videos and for other activities in my classroom, and it took me a while to find the kind that I liked that worked best for me, and I think that that's going to be a challenge for everyone, and that they shouldn't let that stop them from considering doing flipped classroom, because it really is a great teaching method, for lack of a better word. So once I got a handle on the technology and I found the ones that I liked, then it was much easier. And the other big hurdle was time. It saved me time in the long run, but the startup required a lot of effort and time on my part to produce the movies and figure out how I was what I was going to put in the script, and so yeah, time.
What successes have you had?
First of all, it has really increased the amount of face-to-face time that I have with my students. It That's very rewarding because I get to have a closer look into where they are in the learning process, and it helps me reflect on my practice as a teacher, as well as help them discover ways to improve their learning. And I think probably the other big thing is it has been a really good reflection on my practice. It's given me a lot of time to reevaluate how I do things and what's really important that I deliver in a lecture, as opposed to let them find through inquiry and exploration in classroom activities.
How have parents responded?
I have had nothing but positive response from parents. In fact, at parent-teacher conferences, I often have parents come to me and say, oh, I really enjoyed your video lecture on chemical reactions. That was really fascinating. Or I've learned so much about science watching your videos with my child. Or I hear your voice coming from my child's room every night. So yeah, it's been really, really positive, and I think that the parents quickly see the benefits of their child being able to review sections that they don't understand or fast forward through something that bores them, that they're ready to move on.
How have students responded?
In the beginning, it was all positive except one student came to me and said, do we really have to do this flipped classroom? I really hate it. I spend so much time watching these videos and writing notes. Sometimes I watch them 3 and 4 times. And I said, well, that's kind of why, one of the reasons why I do this is because if I was doing this in a lecture format, you would only be able to hear it once, and then we're done unless you record my lecture, and then you're still going to be doing the same thing that you're doing right now and watching the video over and over again. And at that point, it was as if the light bulb went on and she was like, oh, okay, yeah, I think we should keep doing it. So that's really the only negative response I've gotten.
Do you have any tips for teachers who are beginning to utilize a flipped classroom?
Couple of things. First, persistence, of course, if you're not really comfortable with technology, but it's definitely worth it in the end. I think one mistake that I made in the beginning, I was so excited about Flipped and what I thought it was going to give me in my classroom that I talked about it a lot with the kids. When you go in and you use project-based learning or you're a constructivist, you don't go in your classroom and say, hey, I'm a constructivist and this is how we're going to do things. So I learned very quickly that the kids really don't care what technique I'm using. They only care about the content and how they're going to learn it and what they're going to do in class. They really don't care about me as a teacher. So I would say keep that to yourself. Just act like this is the way we're going to do things. This is your homework. And I think once the kids realize that they wouldn't have to be doing traditional homework at home, solving difficult problems and answering difficult questions, that we were going to be doing that in class together when they had access to me, I think it'll be a very positive experience for the students.
What technology do you use in your flipped classroom? Are there any that you used before but that you do not anymore, and why?
I hate TouchCast. I hope nobody from TouchCast is out there listening. I really, really hated it. It was very clunky to use, and then a lot of times when it was hard to figure out how to share it, and ultimately that's what you have to do with any video that you produce. You have to share it. You have to be able to share it with any student that needs it, and so that was a really awful experience for me. One that I did use in the beginning that I really liked is called PresentMe. It's presentme.com, and it is free up to a certain point, and I never hit my limitations on that. So, and I liked it for a couple of reasons, mainly because I could do a Google presentation of the work, and it actually creates a split screen. So I could have the slide presentation on one side, my face on the other, or I could just have the slides with audio, or I could just have video of me. So in the beginning that seemed to work best. And on that note, students really like to see, your students really like to see you. So I try to use at least 75-80% of my own videos that I've produced rather than borrowing. There's tons of great stuff on YouTube out there, TeacherTube. There's so many resources, but ultimately your students want to see your face and hear your voice. And I find too that it's really hard for me to get a video that really is tailored to the curriculum that I'm trying to cover. Sometimes it has too much stuff or it doesn't have this. So I function much better, and my students function much better if it's something that's produced by me. It's not just about video lectures, though. There are a lot of other tools that I use. I use Google for tons of stuff. G-Class Folders has kind of changed my life. I've always in the past, before technology started really coming into the classroom, I had my students keep a binder so that it was it's like a portfolio of all the work that they had done, and I would have them turn those in periodically. These big binders, turn it in, and I would go through, flip through, and make sure that they're doing their work. And so G-Class Folders allows me to do that digitally, and I have access 24/7. So anytime I want to see, what is Johnny doing on his notes, I can go in and check. And then when I'm at parent-teacher conferences and the parent says, why does he have a C and not a B, or why does he have a B and not an A, the first thing I always say is, let's look at his assignment folder in Google and see what kind of work he's been doing to prepare for class, or note-taking, things like that. So that's probably the biggest. And then this past summer, I went to FlipCon, Flipped Learning. Bergman and Sams, they have these big conferences on flipped learning every summer. And I attended it virtually, which was pretty cool. And as an attendee, TechSmith, which is a company that makes Camtasia and Snagit. Camtasia is a video recording program, and Snagit is like a screenshot. Also, you can do some videos too, but it allows you to annotate and add things. It's a really cool production tool, and so I really like that. And as an attendee of FlipCon, I got a discount, so I got it for like $70, and it's normally close to $200. But that being said, Google Chrome now has a Snagit app and extension that is free, and it has some limitations. It doesn't work quite as well as the paid app, but it is functional, and it would be good. And as I said before, it's not all about video lectures. A lot of things that I do are like guided reading activities or note-taking. So I figure any student, if I teach them how to take notes and I give them reading strategy and annotation strategies, that's something that they can do as homework and be prepared to come in and have a discussion or do a lab or an activity in the classroom with me.
Have you been able to measure the efficacy of the flipped approach compared to what you did before?
I haven't actually done an action research piece on this. I did do some surveys with my students kind of before and after, especially that first year. So at the end of the year, I had them complete a survey, and I asked them specific questions about not just about flipped, because they were sick and tired of hearing about flipped, but about which units they enjoyed the most or felt like they learned the most and why. And through that, I did see some little flipped fingers coming in. So I would say for me, rather than a scientific action research piece, it has been like I said earlier, my ability to spend more face-to-face time with students who need it, and to really be part of the active learning process rather than me standing at the front of the classroom and blah, 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 blah for 30 or 45 minutes. I spend that 30 or 45 minutes, really talking to students and listening to them talk to each other and watching them build something and engineer something. So that's been a very positive effect of doing flipped for me.